Forgot about that part. Yeah. Heather. Like, get the meeting started. Yeah. Thank you. She's our PR person. She has to talk and. All right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. I'm David Jones. I am the Sergeant of Arms, and tonight I'm going to be wearing two hats, metaphorically. I'm going to keep this hat on, but first I'm going to be as a club officer, the Sergeant of Arms, to start the meeting. Then I'm going to introduce our president, Elvis, who's online. And then I'm going to be Toastmaster of the day, which is the facilitator of the meeting. Now, as the Sergeant at Arms, just housekeeping, bathrooms are behind me. Got gentlemen on this side, women on this side. Make sure that you have your phones muted. And then those of you on Zoom, if you could stay muted unless you are speaking, we would appreciate it. And what else? And tonight, as you know, we have a special guest speaker. County Commissioner Leigh Altman is here, and she's here to talk about how to get into politics, how to do local politics, and it is information only. Tonight is not going to be a political event. So whenever we do question and answers, if we could stay away from policy or events or other politicians, we'd appreciate it. Queen City has been in existence. We're the oldest club in Charlotte. We've been in existence since 1953. We've been at this location for about 7 years. And directly above us are pews. We're in a church, therefore we don't want to have political campaigns in a church. And Toastmasters International doesn't have political events either. Therefore, we're just going to keep it as a fun event for tonight. And let's see what else. Before I introduce our president, usually the president introduces all of our guests, but we have a lot of guests tonight. So I think we're going to introduce you at the end of the meeting if we have time, so that we can try to get through the meeting as a whole. But I just want to tell everybody we do appreciate you all coming, both on Zoom and in person, to this event. And what else? We're just talking about notes. I have to read all my notes. All right. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our president, who is Dominican Republic. And yes, if you've been here before, you've heard that before, but he has a home in Dominican Republic. So he's been on extended vacations. Elvis, hello, how are you?
Hi, thank you, David. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and distinguished guests. It's always good to be here, and welcome one more time to our Queen City Toastmasters Club. As David mentioned, today we have a very special meeting with a special guest. And as is customary in all of our meetings, we like to recognize the presence of our guests as we start the meeting. And in this case, we're going to be doing it at the end. So with that being said, I would like to turn it back over to our Toastmaster of the day. As he briefly introduced himself, he is the one who is going to lead us throughout this meeting. So back to you, Toastmaster of the day, David Jones.
Thank you, Elvis. I appreciate it. I do want to acknowledge just a couple of quick dignitaries other than our county commissioner. Toastmasters is international. We have thousands of clubs around the world. And then we are in District 37. District 37 goes from basically Asheville to Greensboro, down here to Charlotte. It's a big triangle. There's plus or minus about 100 clubs. And there's about 30 people, volunteers, that help run the district. And at the top, we have what we call the trio. They're the three that are most responsible. And we have one of the trio on. We have Julie Reithart. She is our club growth director. She makes sure all the clubs are everything. So hello, how are you? Thank you for joining us, Julie. We have some other dignitaries that I'll introduce throughout the night. Now, at Queen City, we like to have guest speakers come once in a while, because once you become comfortable speaking, you want to do something with that, and that ability, that knowledge. So we have guest speakers. We've had a motivational speaker come. We've had somebody who did a TED Talk. He came and told us how to do TED Talks. We had Jennifer Busco tell us how to do podcasts. That's her specialty. Last week we had a professional speaker, and then tonight we have a county commissioner telling us how to get involved in politics. And that's because once you become a competent communicator, you're confident and have high self-esteem from being able to speak in front of a group, you might want to run for political office. And the problem is, how do you do that? And that's why we asked our county commissioner to come tell us how to do that. Now, back a long time ago, I probably 25 years ago, 20 years ago, I'm from Miami, born and raised in Miami. And I would go to city council members for my homeowners association. And I was very frustrated with the city council members. And I remember once one was sleeping and I said, well, I should run for I could do that as long as I don't have to speak to people or campaign or any of that. Was before Toastmasters. So maybe now we'll see what happens. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting. I am the Toastmaster of the day. I run and facilitate the meeting, and for the guests and newer members, every role from here on out is a role that you sign up for. And one of the roles that we're going to have is Allie Brooke, who is on Zoom, and Allie is our inspirational speaker. And Allie, take it away.
Thank you, Dave. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guest. I wanted to share something with you that I read about a year ago that inspired me. And so here goes. You are allowed. You are allowed to leave any story you don't find yourself in. You are allowed to leave any story you don't love yourself in. You are allowed to leave a city that has dimmed your light instead of making you shine brighter. You're allowed to pack all of your bags and start over somewhere else. And you're allowed to redefine the meaning of your life. You're allowed to quit a job you hate, even if the world tells you not to. And you're allowed to search for something that makes you look forward to tomorrow and the rest of your life. You're allowed to leave someone you love if that person is treating you poorly. You're allowed to put yourself first if you're settling, and you're allowed to walk away when you've tried over and over again, but nothing has changed. You're allowed to let toxic friends go, and you're allowed to surround yourself with love and people who encourage you and nurture you. You're allowed to pick the energy that you want and need in your life. You're allowed to forgive yourself for your biggest and your smallest mistakes, and you're allowed to be kind to yourself. You're allowed to look in the mirror and actually like that person looking back at you. You're allowed to set yourself free from all of your own expectations. We sometimes look at leaving as a bad thing or associate it with giving up or quitting, but sometimes leaving is the best thing you can do for yourself. Leaving allows you to change directions, to start over, to rediscover yourself and the world. Leaving sometimes saves you from staying stuck in the wrong place with the wrong people. Leaving opens up new doors for change, for growth, for opportunities and redemption. You always have a choice to leave until you find where you belong and what makes you happy. You're even allowed to leave the old you behind and reinvent yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Allie. Appreciate it. Another dignitary I'd like to introduce for Toastmasters. You don't see her on Zoom tonight for the first time in about 3 years, and that's our immediate past president, Vanessa Waller. She's here in person for the first time. Vanessa was the president when the pandemic started, and she got us through it. It was a really rough time. She got us involved in Zoom, which nobody ever heard of Zoom. And there were times there was like 5 or 6 of us on Zoom, and she got us through it. Then I became president for a year, and then we needed a president for a 6-month term. She stepped back in as our president for the 6 months. Now we have Elvis, but it's nice to have Vanessa here tonight with us. So thanks for being here, Vanessa. Our next role is the grammarian, and that is our treasurer, Jamie Richardson. And if you're interested in joining the club, this is the man to speak to. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, and good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I am delighted to be your grammarian this evening. Grammarian, my role, I will deliver 3 responsibilities tonight. First, my least favorite of the roles is I'm going to listen for improper use of language. So filler words like you know, and so. Second, I will listen for particularly effective use of language. So words or phrases that are impactful or memorable and help resonate your story and your message. And third, I am happy to deliver our word of the day. And our word of the day is service, consistent with our theme for the night. In this context, service means the act of helping or working on behalf of others. So I encourage all of you to use the word of the day, service, whether that's in your prepared speeches, in your roles and comments, or even in our table topics. I will be keeping track and I will deliver the grammarian's report at the very end of the meeting in our evaluation portion. And with that, I will wish us a great meeting and turn it back to our Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Toastmaster Jamie, and thank you for your service to the club as treasurer. Go ahead and write that one down. Usually I just throw in the random word, and he doesn't count it, but that one did count. Next up is a newer member. He's been a member for 3 weeks now, and all 3 weeks, well, the first time he came, I asked him to be timer, and he's like, sure. And repetition is the mother of skill. So this is his 3rd time as treasurer. So please welcome Dave. Sir.
Thank you, Toastmaster David. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. I will be in service to you as the timer this evening. So as a timer, I'm going to be keeping track of how long people are speaking with their time speeches. And then also, I'm going to be indicating to the speaker how long they've been speaking with the lights over there, so they can get an indication of how they're doing towards the end of their speech. So each speaker is going to have kind of a target range that they want to hit for time. So when you see the green light go on, that's going to indicate that they are at the minimum portion of their time range in speech. When the yellow one goes on, it's going to indicate that they're in the middle of that range. And then when the red one goes on, they'll be at the end of that range. Once the red one goes on, the speaker has should try to be finished up in about 30 seconds after that. We have 2 different types of speeches tonight. We're not going to have evaluation tonight. The main speech that we have, our guest speaker, that's going to be 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. So at 15 minutes, we'll see the green light, 17 and a half, we'll see yellow, and 20 minutes, we'll see the red light. Then we're going to have table topics, and those are going to be 1 to 2 minutes. So at 1 minute, we'll see the green light. At a minute and a half, we'll see the yellow. And then at 2 minutes, we'll see red. And then once everyone has spoken for each of those categories, I'll come back up and report on the timings for everyone that's spoken there. So look forward to hearing from everyone tonight. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. In order to stay out of trouble, I have another dignitary, the one that has thick skin and patience, and that is my girlfriend, Libby. Just wanted to recognize you, Libby. She's busy talking. That's right. It's his fault. All right, so tonight we have, as mentioned, our county commissioner. And I just want to read her resume. Her resume, obviously, if you were a county commissioner, you have a really long resume. Hers is condensed. It doesn't have everything on it. Doesn't have the fact that she went to Florida State for her law degree. My older daughter went to Florida State, so we are Seminole fans at home. So yes. But Leigh Altman was first elected to the Board of County Commissioners in 2020 as an at-large commissioner. She represents all of Mecklenburg County's 1.1 million residents. Through her 17-year career as an attorney, Altman has worked as an advocate for at-risk and vulnerable community members and carries the mission to her current role. Before moving to Charlotte, Altman served as lead attorney for Georgia Governor Office of Consumer Affairs and the Commission on Equal Opportunity. She was recognized as one of Georgia's top lawyers under 40. Upon moving to Charlotte in 2009, Altman continued her legal advocacy as a guardian for seniors and adults with disabilities and as a staff attorney for Charlotte's Council of Children's Rights. Later, she served as the juvenile defense attorney representative on the Mecklenburg County Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Altman currently serves on the county's Environmental Stewardship Committee and the Economic Development Committee. In addition, she is the chair of the Metropolitan Transit Commission and Alliance Health Board member. Through the years, Altman has volunteered her time to assist domestic abuse victims, women seeking reproductive health care, and those facing the death penalty. She has also been committed to increasing voter turnout as a precinct chair and as a board member of the Democratic Women of Mecklenburg County. Altman and her husband, David, are parents to 3 teenage boys. She sounds very busy. I appreciate you taking time out to be here, and thanks for your service to our community. Please welcome Commissioner Altman. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. It's great to be here and spend some time with you and talk about how you can get involved in local politics and help shape your community and your world. You pretty much know everything about me, but yes, I was always very committed to social justice and improving my community, and I think this is in part because I'm the great-granddaughter of Holocaust victims, and it was something that was very prominent in my household and in our, discussions over dinner. And so I became a lawyer and I worked in the spaces that you've heard about, but I often felt that I wasn't really making an impact. I would hopefully help one person at a time, but it was so clear to me often that even if I did the thing that I was appointed to do for that person, that the rest of their world was still sort of falling apart around them, and that their chances for success weren't very good. And it would, it just really sort of broke my heart and left me sort of despondent. So after a very formative election, 2 elections ago, I guess I won't name names, I decided to become a little bit involved in local politics. And I went to my very first Democratic Party event. And so I want you to know that because I got my start when I was in my mid-40s. So, and Nancy Pelosi, not that that's necessarily your role model, but she didn't even run for office until all of her children had left the house too. So from my prospects, everybody here is plenty young enough to begin their political careers. And I want you to believe that because it's true. So I'll tell you a little bit about the path I took because it's really one that you can do regardless of your party or your political affiliation. I started going to my party events and, started learning about how it's all set up. So in Mecklenburg County, there are 196 precincts. And if you Google MEC BOE for MEC Board of Elections, you can pull up the map. And in every precinct, there's going to be a precinct chair who's responsible for organizing the 3,000 Democrats or 3,000 Republicans or what have you, or independents who live in each precinct. So that's how I started to learn about getting out the vote. And if you want to run for office, it's very important, first and foremost, that you meet the party activists in your community, because if they've never laid eyes on you, even if you are the smartest and the best and the brightest, and you've got the most wonderful ideas, you're going to work the hardest, if they don't know you and they haven't had an opportunity to develop trust in your character and your ability to be a collaborator, you're not going to get anywhere. So for somebody who's truly interested, the first thing I would say is start reaching out to other people in the party of your choice. Start going to events so that you can learn people and start taking on leadership roles. Because as I said, you know, organizing, getting out the vote, registering voters, that's happening across the county all the time. It's very hard work. There's always new people coming in. We're a giant county, and that's something critical that you can do that helps democracy, regardless of your political leanings, all the time. One thing I'd like to also tell you to do, if you, again, MEC BOE, again, if you Google that address, you can pull up your voter registration card. You know, back in the day, we used to get like an index card in the mail, right, from the post office after we register, and you put that in your wallet, gets really dog-eared. That information is on the web, on their website now. And it's important because, you know, is there anybody here who can, you know, say what congressional district you're in? Maybe a couple people, but you probably can't say what county commission district you're in. You probably can't say what city council district you're in, what school board district you're in, what state House of Representatives you're in, what state Senate you're in. It's ridiculous, but the fact of the matter is there are different numbers for every single one of these districts. I don't know who set that system up, but it makes it extremely difficult for anybody to know who represents them or to how to advocate for yourself. So if you pull this up on the web and it'll list, and if I should have brought a computer so I could do an example for you, but if I pulled up my name and then I could pull up all my different, school board district this, county commission district that, city council district this, then I can take that number. Like, for example, I live in County Commission District 4. I could Google Mecklenburg County Commission and pull up all the people who represent me. I can see their faces, I can see their names, I can see their bios, but most importantly, I can see their phone numbers and I can see their emails. And that's how you begin to empower yourself, is to be able to do direct advocacy. Because there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to, I don't know if I need to stand here. There's no reason why you should not feel completely comfortable to call up any of your local or state officials and speak to them on the telephone, get a direct email from them, have them meet you in the community, have them come to your neighborhood and explain to you what they are doing to help you and to listen to your issues and to be responsive to that. That is an expectation that you should have. That is not anyone doing you a favor. They owe that level of responsiveness to you. Another wonderful thing that you could do, especially for this group, is all three local bodies, the school board, the city council, and the county commission. All three bodies have public meetings every month. And I know for mine, and I think it's probably the same for the others, twice a month, you can sign up to speak. You get 3 minutes. You can talk about anything you want. If you come as a group, you get 10 minutes. And it's an incredible opportunity for public speaking and also for advocacy. So what should you be advocating about? Well, if anybody can tell me what the city does versus what the county does, I would love for you to raise your hand. You. Okay, lay it on me. Okay. You get an A+. You get an A+. Exactly. Let's have a round of applause. That's exactly right. What you heard was hard surfaces versus soft surfaces. So of course, schools do schools. The city does hard surfaces. So CMPD, fire, neighborhood zoning, planning, picking up your trash. The county does soft services, public health, mental health, $750 million to CMS. The Department of Social Services, and clean air, clean water, our streams. So things that more affect your quality of life like that. So it's important to know what each body is doing so you know who to complain to when you aren't happy with something. So I was also asked to talk about how to actually get started running for office. So as I said, the first thing you need to do is become a known quantity in the party that you want to run for. And of course, you can run as an independent. And I wish that was a more viable path. But the reality is that, you know, with 196 precincts and 1.1 million people, if you don't have any sort of party support in reaching people and covering, you know, all the early voting sites and all the, you can't do it without any sort of party support at all in a general election. And so that's why, unfortunately, you know, it's a harder road for someone who wants to run independent, although I think it's wonderful. So I would say it is important to figure out your party, learn those people, go to their meetings so that you start to meet other elected officials and you can begin to seek mentors in that space, and learn from things you like and avoid things that you don't like that you see. You know, a lot of people ask about fundraising. And the truth is, before I ran for office, I personally was never a political donor. I had not used my resources to support political candidates except for like presidential candidates, where I was, you know, I tended to only be focused really on the national level prior to that big election 2 cycles ago. But what I've come to understand is the reason why people raise money, it is not to like, you know, pay some fancy staff or to have catered events or to, you know, sort of, you know, waste money. The reason why I raise money, and I have to raise money, is because, newsflash, people are not paying attention to county commission. They have no idea what it is, what it does, who the commissioners are, or who I am. But it's a $2.1 billion budget of your money. And so it really matters. So if I don't raise the money to educate people that this election is coming up, county commission's coming up, y'all, and hey, I'm running for it, and here's why you might want to support me, and here's why you should go vote, and you should keep voting down the ballot. Don't just stop at the presidential, you know, contest. Keep going all the way down the ballot. If I don't raise the money to raise voter awareness about county commission, then people are not going to turn out for it. And who knows who is going to be voting on, you know, budgets of that consequence. And by the way, it's not just county commission. If you add together the school board, county commission, and city council, you are looking at about $8 billion in local taxpayer dollars. So it really matters. And in each of these boards also, by the way, you have district people who represent by geographic region, and you also have at-large representatives. So I'm an at-large representative on county commission, and so for everybody in here, you're going to have 1 district representative on county commission and 3 at-large representatives. So that means you have 4 people that you directly vote for, who answer directly to you for county commission. It's a similar number for school board and for city council. So keep that in mind when you think about who you want to call and who you want to harass or bother. You choose the word. You've got at least 4 people that you directly who directly represent you on each of those boards. But again, going back to the resources, you know, so you do have to fundraise for a local race. It is painful. It's excruciating. Honestly, I will tell you the truth. The very first time I made my phone call, I had to have a very tiny bit of liquid reinforcements. You want to talk about being afraid to publicly speak, picking up the phone and asking somebody to give you money to donate and financially support you running for a local office that a lot of people would, you know, be dubious that it's worth their time to even listen to, was excruciating. And I didn't just have to do it once, y'all. I've now run 3 times, if you only count the primaries, but if you include the generals, it's more than that. And so I've had to pick up the phone and do that for 3 months solid, 3 times. It's really, really tough. But it also is a reflection. If you can't persuade people why this matters to them and how it's relevant to their lives, and that it is worth their investment for $50 or $100 or some larger numbers, then if you can't, I guess what I'm saying is the presence of that in politics is not entirely a bad thing, because it does speak to your ability to generate the support that you need from the community. So, but be that as it may, it's a reality that is out there, and there are people who can help you do that. If you're running for office, having a finance director is something that is important. Somebody who actually sits with you and helps you keep track of all of that and keeps you from running back into the corner and hiding, or deciding to, go walk the dog or do any manner of unpleasant housework rather than fundraise. And in fact, the finance director's time is actually my largest expense. Everything else that's the largest personnel expense. The largest expense overall, of course, as I said, is the direct outreach to voters. So that's mail, which, believe it or not, works. It's newspaper ads, which, believe it or not, works. And it is yard signs and radio locally. I don't have the budgets for TV. I don't think a lot of local people do. And that's what, I think sort of local political scientists think kind of work. So those are some of the nuts and bolts of running for office. There are a couple people who are sort of career campaign managers. If anybody's interested in running for office, I'd be happy to talk to you about who some of those people are. You want to be really careful, because you want to save 98% of your budget for actual direct voter outreach. So I'm extremely careful about, the limited amount of help that I have to hire, because I want to be sure that all of my resources is going for direct voter reach out. And in terms of how to build a following, I would say that for me, running at large, where I represent the city of Charlotte, Pineville, Stallings, Matthews, Mint Hill, Davidson, Cornelius, and Huntersville, and you think about, there's a Rotary Club in each of these places. There's a, LGBTQ group in every one of these places. There's a, you name it, environmental group, economic, every prism of interest exists in every part of the county. And I spent my first 2 years trying to get on all their mailing lists, and then trying to show up to all of their events in a sort of geographically equitable way. So I think how you create a following is you get out in the community and you do that, and you have a social media presence, and you start to build a mail list. And that's what you call upon as you go forward. And now, I've worked really hard to update the community and try to send out snappy, brief updates that are relevant to your lives. And that's something that I do that also I think helps to build that following when it comes time to run, which painfully I have to do every 18 months. So I will be back on the ballot in August, which is never fun, but just a part of the process. So that's sort of the cadence of local offices. They're all 2 years. And as I said, it's about a 6 to 8 month process to run. But at least I'm not running for Congress, which would be even more excruciating. So anyway, that's kind of running for office, local office 101 in a nutshell. And I would love to hear any questions you may have. Yes, sir.
Your Facebook or your Twitter, or if you use those a lot, that's one of the ways you are
Yes, I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And Twitter is where I've noticed sort of local media is more hanging out, shall I say. And so, Facebook is definitely the province of local democratic organizing. That is where all the precinct chairs and all of that definitely, and friends and family and your network going back 20 years, which can be important for fundraising. And then Instagram is where the youth are, or so I'm told. And then the other places where the youth are, I'm definitely not cool enough to even go. So, but yeah, social media is important, but it's such a tiny sliver of the electorate that it's not the winning strategy at all. It is just one of many layers of strategy, but it's itty bitty puddle. It is a bubble. It is literally a small bubble. Who's next? Yes, sir. That's a great question. So you can make a name for yourself by going everywhere and, you know, trying to sort of raise your profile. But if you actually, I forgot the rule, but I think it basically says if you declare your intention to run, I think like outside your family, even to friends, you have an obligation to go to the Board of Elections, which is on Kenilworth near Target, to go to the Board of Elections and file some preliminary paperwork. You definitely cannot begin to fundraise without having formally engaged in some disclosures through the Board of Elections. Yes. Right. A+ again.
Escúchame, que te quiero hacer una pregunta.
So he was just saying that the news media is not always totally accurate on transit, and I said A+ again. So, you know, especially, I think for all leadership, it is a balance of reflecting the will of the people you represent. And therefore you need to know what they want, and therefore you need to be in the community in a lot of different spaces. So you're getting an accurate cross section of all different sort of points of view. Do you want me to stop talking? Okay. And what'd you say? Okay. And it's a balance between reflecting the will of the electorate and leading. Because y'all, I wake up and the first thing I do is read. I mean, like from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, I am almost exclusively focused on every aspect of local municipal governance and services and needs and problems. And nobody in the community, I mean, few people in the community are truly like that focused, have the bandwidth to spend that much time. So part of my job, especially on transit, which is really difficult right now, is to lead, not just to reflect, because I'm trying to get us to a better place. And I have a lot of information that residents may not be in possession of. So I think it's both. But if you're asking about how best to know what the voters want, no, I have no one helping me with polling. I've never spent a dime on polling. I don't have money for that. So I know what people want from my being out in the community and my efforts to consume every reputable local news source and blog and so on and so forth to help me give as broad a view as possible. Yes, sir.
So at state level, national level, politicians have really help them do some of the stuff you provide. At this level, is it like, are you on your phone? Do you have to?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a one-woman show. There's no one helping me. There's no one writing my copy on social media. There's no one writing my newsletters, which I put my heart and soul into, although my mom does proofread them for errors. Thank you, Mom. So yeah, I mean, these jobs get paid somewhere between 20,000 to 40,000 and some change. And it is, very much a full-time gig for me. I don't think it wasn't conceived as a full-time gig. And in fact, I think I heard a debate recently about city council that it's sort of officially part-time. And as city councilman, when he first got on, 2 terms ago, he advocated for a pay raise for himself, and he got a lot of heat for it. But the reality is, if we want a cross-section of people in the community, my husband works, I practiced law for 17 years. Like, if we want a cross-section of people who have different life experiences, we probably need to think as voters about not begrudging, and I'm not saying this for myself, I'm fine, you know, like not begrudging paying people enough money to support a family and do this as a full-time job, because it is. And, you know, and to be able to encourage more people to come forward who could do it. So yeah, did I answer your question? Okay. Yeah. Sonia.
Hi, hopefully you guys can hear me. I love how you
Yes.
talked about reaching out to people and funneling your resources to those individuals. But we all know there are just some people who will not vote, yet they're still valuable members of your community. How do you reach out to those individuals who you know you're not going to vote, but when you're campaigning, how do you reach out to them the equal amount as you do those who you know you can count on their vote? How do you do that? How do you allocate your time to those you know who are going to be active voters and those who are just passive, but they still need you?
That's a good question. When I'm running for office, I am doing a lot of things to run for office, which would, some of it would capture active voters more than others. So like, you know, yard signs would capture everybody, newspaper ads would capture everybody, radio would capture everybody. People who are not going to be dialed in or want to get my newsletter, like I can't really help that. The big area where I might not capture non-voters would be my mail, because mail is so expensive. And I have to mail tens of thousands of people, but I cannot email 1.1 million people. I would love to, but I would need all my donors to add another 5 zeros to each of their donations in order to be able to afford to mail every resident in Mecklenburg County. And so my mail is targeted towards primary voters who are most likely to vote. And that's, like I say, just a function of necessity. You know, I have to triage the people that I can afford to reach out to. Did I answer your question?
You did. I appreciate that. You're still reaching out to them, even though you know they're not going to vote. I appreciate
Yes,
that.
ma'am. Yes, Daryl.
How does that affect your job and aspects of it that make it difficult to
That is this is so educational. Thank you, Daryl. He's talking about North Carolina being a Dillon state, which means that we are sorely circumscribed in what we are allowed to do by what the General Assembly has given us authority to do. And you can see it, I mean, environmental protection is just one example, because I sit on the Environmental Stewardship Committee. There are so many more things we could do to protect our water and our air, but we're not allowed to because the General Assembly hasn't allowed us to do it. Or, you know, the things that I might like to do around, you know, common sense gun safety. I'm desperate to do. My children were in, you know, 1st and 3rd grade when Sandy Hook happened. And I, you know, every day I put them on, you know, when I used to put them on the bus for years and years and years, I would, you know, wonder if I was going to get to see them again. So these are like critical issues that I am completely unable to do anything about because of, you know, the hierarchy that's imposed. But there's a great deal that I can do on things that can have tremendous impact for a whole host of things that are deeply impactful. So it's okay. But we do need to elect great people to the General Assembly so that we can have enlightened policies to move the whole state forward. Any other questions? Thank you so much. Please reach out to me anytime. I can leave some business cards.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Now, I forgot also when we were talking about guest speakers, we also had a poet that came, and we have some extra poetry books. When we get to table topics, Vanessa, maybe whoever volunteers, you can give them one of the poetry books. So we do have great speakers. And another great resource for promoting yourself again is Jennifer Busco. She has her own podcast. So if you are a business owner or a book writer or a politician, you can talk to Jennifer. She'll get you a lot of exposure. And with that, I forgot to introduce our ballot counter. We're going to have a ballot counter for our table topics. I'd like to introduce our Vice President of Education, Eric Laxer. He's going to tell us about ballot counting. Thanks, sir. Thanks, sir.
I didn't expect as warm a set of applause as we gave the commissioner, and that's okay. It was appropriate. So thank you for your service. And that was a fantastic speech for our group. Thank you so much. So as ballot counter, my role is twofold. Number one is to coordinate the voting or ballot section of our evening. And you will all have an opportunity to vote for your favorite table topic speaker in a few minutes. And the way you do that is you all have these ballots in front of you. At the very bottom, you'll see it says best table topic speaker. Think of it more like favorite, because best is like a bit of a harsh description. So you can vote for your favorite table topic speaker. And for those of you who are online, you can put your votes in our chat club, in the club view option on chat. And the second function of this sheet is, if you look, there are also headings. It says first speaker, second speaker, third speaker, and we didn't have those speakers here tonight. But then it says topics master, general evaluator, Toastmaster of the meeting, and it's your opportunity to give each of those role players feedback. And so if there's something positive or something constructive you want to share with them, if you just mark that on there, and then when I come around and collect the ballots, or even afterwards, you can give it to me and I can anonymously, if you like, pass it on to that particular person. So with that, I will turn this back over to our current Toastmaster, David Jones.
Thank you, sir. All right. And again, we got a few books up here, Vanessa. And then if you're on Zoom and you do a table topics, we'll send me your address and we'll mail you a poetry book. And with that, we're going to have our table topics master explain what table topics is. And that is our immediate past president, Vanessa Waller. Thank you, Vanessa.
Thanks, David. All right, great to see everyone in person after a little bit of a hiatus when I was on Zoom. So tonight, after hearing an inspiring speech from Leigh Altman, I'm sure we're all excited to jump into working on our public speaking skills a little bit more and maybe take a step in the direction of more public service and leadership. So if you're thinking tonight, wow, that was an inspiring speech and I want to move in that direction, now is your chance with table topics. So for those of you who are newer to table topics, this is a time in the meeting where I have about 5 questions and I'll ask the question to our volunteers and you give only a 1 to 2 minute speech to answer that question. So it's an opportunity to think on your feet, come up with some ideas to share and keep it short between 1 and 2 minutes. And so at this point, I will go ahead and ask for a first volunteer to answer a question on the topic of service and leadership. And this could be, we might start with members first. If we have a member either on Zoom or in person who wants to do the first table topic. All right, come on up. And by the way, we also have these poetry books. I don't think, is there enough for everyone? I'm sure there looks like there is, but yeah. Leon, okay, you have one, Leon. Awesome. All right. So our first question, if you had a day to spend volunteering for your community, how would you spend your day?
Thank you for the question, Vanessa. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honorable guests. If I had a day of service to my fellow community, what's one area that I would start? And I would have to say, I would have to start somewhere where there are children. I noticed lately with the pandemic happening and so forth, a lot of kids were learning from home, not getting the attention they need. And then also just talking to some of the younger members in my family, some of the gaps that they see or eloquently articulate to me of some of the things that they feel that they're missing in their youth from the elders in their family and in their community. And this also makes me put myself in their shoes too. Thinks a little bit about some of the things that I felt that I didn't always receive when I was a child either. And so that is a area that I would start if I had to spend a day of service. And in fact, I really appreciate that question because I have found a group that is dedicated to helping young men, teaching them how to garden, teaching them how to do better in school, and thus teaching them values that can lead throughout life. And for me, that came through sports, but I know that it can come through other areas because not every young man is involved in sports. So that is one area that I would definitely start for sure if I had to spend a day of service. Vanessa.
Thank you so much, Leon. I love that idea of helping children and youth because, as people say, the youth, the children are the future. So I totally agree that is a wonderful way to serve the community. All right, do we have another volunteer, either a member or guest? Yes, please come on up. Welcome. All right, so our second question tonight. What is the best lesson you have learned about good leadership?
Okay, thank you for the question, Toastmasters. What is the best lesson I've learned about leadership? I think one of the things I recently had an opportunity to fly supporting the Air Force as part of my Civil Air Patrol duties, and as a volunteer, we actually flew down to Charleston, South Carolina, and flew a bunch of, I think it was 145 middle school and some high school students, flying them in the airplane. And that allowed me a chance to share my passion of flying with these students and try to, to bring that into them so they could feel that of the enjoyment of flying. And what we do, we'd take off just a very short little trip around the airport, but it flew right over the town of Charleston. Beautiful, the harbor, and it was clear blue sky. I mean, it was just awesome. And the kids just loved it. And I was telling them that, because I was a former Air Force fighter pilot, and telling them that this is something that you can achieve, because I was not a bright guy. I had to get my college degree to be able to become an officer, but it was something I found very fruitful, even though I got shot at. But that's part of the game, I guess. But one of the things I think was just that leadership is part of showing passion to other people, to bring them to give them an avenue or a path where they want to go out and achieve something. So thank you for the question.
Thank you so much. And you do get a poetry book for participating in Table Topics. Thank you. And I love that idea of showing passion in what you care about, much like our speaker shared tonight, and having that joy and sharing it with others. Definitely a way to inspire others for sure. All right, do we have a third volunteer for Table Topics on the topic of leadership and service? Either members or guests? Yes. All right. Thank you. All right, so our third question. Dealing with conflicting opinions is a natural part of leadership. How have you coped when someone disagrees with your perspective?
Thank you, Vanessa, for that question. That's a great question. What I've found mostly in the community is being face to face with people. Most people are really kind. Most people don't want to have these violent arguments. We're decent human beings with big hearts. Where I find the most conflict is online behind screens. And I think a lot of time it's bots. It's not even real people. So I don't think it's a big deal to have a different opinion at all. I think that's what makes the world go round. We have been so caught up in a population recently where it was this party against that party, or you do this or you do that, and how dare you do this? And it was a huge conflict of opinion. And I think we all fell for a big trap because we're in this community together, and it's okay to have different opinions. And it shouldn't be frowned upon to speak our truth either. It's okay. It's okay to be different. And so I feel like I deal with that very well. So thank you. I have a book, but thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Wonderful. Yes, dealing with conflict, being aware of the situation, very important skills to have for life in general. All right, do we have a fourth volunteer? We have a couple more questions. Hopefully we have time for a couple more table topics. Yes? Either anyone on Zoom or in oh, wonderful. Welcome. Thank you. All right, so our fourth question. Accountability for one's mistakes is considered a key part of leadership. The last time you made a mistake, how did you rectify that mistake?
Good evening, Queen City. So, accountability for mistakes, something I deal with every single day of life. I work in the construction industry. I run a team that draws a little over 3,000 plan sets each year, and we construct about 2,000 homes. Nothing ever goes perfect. So it is a constant rundown of where was the mistake, how do we make it better, how do we not make it again? And I run this with my team a lot, that if you make that mistake, own it. If we work in the drafting department, that is the plan for how that house is supposed to together. If we miss a note, a dimension, a line, it can completely change how that house is interpreted to be built. So what I tell my team is, if we get a call, something out in the field is not correct, if you look on the plan and we did not meet our standards, it is our fault. We own it. But we always track down, where did the root cause come from? How do we not make that mistake again? And I always encourage them, and I tell them this a lot, it's okay to make the mistake as long as you don't make the same mistake over and over. I want to see new mistakes. Impress me, excite me, give me something interesting. And they never fail to do so. But don't run from it, don't hide from it, don't make excuses. Well, somebody else could have seen this and told me about it before the house started going vertical. Somebody else should have noticed this problem before it ever made it to field. Nope, your name is on the drawing. That is your responsibility. Own it, be better next time. Thank you very much. I think I already have that one.
You have one. Wonderful. Thank you. I agree. It's so important to not make the same exact mistake multiple times if you can avoid it. Good to have the different mistakes, if anything. So good advice there. We have time for one more table topics question. Yes, welcome. Come on up. All right. All right, so our last question. If you had a magic wand to fix a problem in your community, what would you fix?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for that question. I was going to go off on a tangent and go on some of the other things. I loved Heather with being different. That's one of my favorite things, because everyone is different, and I really appreciate the differences in people. Talking about admitting you're wrong. I don't admit I'm wrong a lot, to be honest with you. I did a sports radio show for 15 years. I had a couple other guys on the show. We had a segment on the show that was called, my name's Daryl, by the way. Daryl, you were right. What does that tell you? But the one time I was wrong, I made a mistake about a player, guy named Adam Morrison, who played for Gonzaga. I thought he was going to be a star. he ended up not being that. One of the guys who was on the show, he was a big Philadelphia fan. He was from Philadelphia. He gave me a jersey from Sean Bradley. I had to wear it on the air that day and admit I was wrong. I have no problem admitting I'm wrong, and I could actually do it in real things too, and not just sports. But getting back to the question, if someone could remind me exactly what it was, since I went off on that tangent, I'm a little younger, so sometimes, the magic wand. Okay, now I got it. Since we also have a representative in here, one of the things I think is a big problem in Charlotte, I moved from Chicago a little over 3 years ago. The housing market sucks here. Prices are ridiculous. There are no condos or townhomes, basically. All I hear, everything that's approved, by the way, by the powers that be, so to speak, it's always new luxury apartment complexes. Now, I live in a luxury apartment complex, but I would like to live in my own place here. I had my own place in Chicago for over 20 years. They had the pandemic. Prices went through the roof. Now the rates are through the roof. Why can't we get housing for people that you could live in? You don't have to be a millionaire to be able to buy it. That's what I'm asking for. If I had my magic wand, that's what I would wave and make the prices go way down. I already got one.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. And it's interesting hearing from a fellow Chicago area person. I lived in the Chicago suburbs for years. And I agree, Charlotte is getting more and more expensive. It's definitely a challenge, but very creative answer. I love it. All right, so at this point, I think we'll call for a timers report for our for our table topics participants, and I'll turn it over to our timer.
All right, thank you to everyone who participated in the table topics. Let's see, we had Leon, I had you at 1 minute, 30 seconds. Bill, I had you at 1 minute and 45 seconds. Heather, had you at 1 minute and 35 seconds. And let's see, Nick, 1 minute, 43 seconds. And Daryl at 2 minutes and 19 seconds.
Thank you so much. And kudos for noting everyone's name so precisely, because sometimes I struggle with that. And that's why we have our name tags, but excellent timers report. And with that, I will turn it over to our Toastmaster, David, to continue with the meeting. David.
Thank you, Vanessa. And again, for those who want to vote, it is Leon, Bill, Heather, Nick, or Daryl. And those online, if you want to direct message me or vote. Eric's going to go around, and at the end, we will announce the favorite of the night. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our general evaluator, Andrea Chocolate Butterfly Williams. Tell us how we did tonight.
Hello, everybody. It's been a great day of non-political talk about being of service, right? So that was really good. I really appreciated the commissioner for coming out today. She taught me something very valuable. I have people always asking me about, someone asked me, Livy asked me today, how do you get your books out? And a lot of what the commissioner shared is a lot of what we do as authors, as entrepreneurs, and in that space, we do the same thing. So we invest in marketing. And a lot of people are like, you're spending a lot of money to get this message out, but I write children's books. So my children's books are about the caterpillar morphing into the butterfly, because it's women, children, minorities, you know my spiel. We are often put in a box and be told to be good little caterpillars. And to get people to get out of that mindset, I have to educate them. And that's what you just said. So you gave me something to grasp, even though I have no desire to be in political office. I love politics. I'm actually a political junkie. I've gotten out of it because I was like, it was ridiculous. Okay, I'll just say that. I've been on the ground with political candidates, helping them get in the office. I've helped a lot. Been into call banks, those are the most difficult things. They give you this little script and you're looking at it and people calling and you're like, hello, my name is Andrea and I'm calling and they hang up on you. So, it is a hard thing. And I think that taught me, and I didn't even realize it. Like, you just brought that back to my mind. Sometimes we don't do things because we think they're so hard, but you don't know every step of your way, everything you do in life. Nick was talking about it when he was talking about talking to the young people. The experience, it's the experience that you share with other people. So that was really great. So I'm your general evaluator. I just wanted to say that little spiel, that's what it made me think of. Being an entrepreneur is like being a politician for your business. You got to speak up, you got to educate, you got to know your part, you got to know. One of my key things that I always tell people, life is a game, and you have to know your key people and they got to know you. So check in with your people. She did some really good Toastmasters things today. One thing she did was very good. And we teach this: ask your audience questions. And not only ask your audience questions, but it's a young lady I do podcast. Well, it's not podcast really, but it's a Clubhouse. And she always asks, have we been of service to you? So when you bring somebody on your stage or you're talking to somebody from the stage, make sure they know they got your message. So that was really good things that came out of that. Today we had a really good meeting. I'm not sure if my ballot counter is, he's gone. Okay, so so he's not ready. It was a lot of good things that were said and done today. And so we started on time. That was the number one thing. We're always timely. That's why we have time stamps for everything in Toastmasters, is to teach you that when you're on the stage, they say you have 20 minutes, you take 20 minutes, not 21, but you take 20 minutes. So those are the things that we teach. And this is where leaders are built. And somebody said that, I forgot who it was, but your service experience, oh, it was you. Your service experience builds leaders, just like Toastmasters. So that's where I got that from. And then mistakes they're made. That was funny. You can make, I used to tell my kids that you can mess up, but you mess up something I told you not to do again, we got a problem. So that, so that was very good thing. So even though we do make a mistake, we do, I'm gonna bring the grammarian up soon, and they're gonna tell us about some of our mistakes. But don't make the same mistakes again. It's okay to do it, just don't do it again. So I'm going to bring up, Eric, you ready? Yeah. Do Jamie first. Okay, I'm gonna do Jamie, the grammarian. He's gonna tell us about those mistakes.
I wouldn't dare presume. Great meeting, everybody. I will just share a couple of things. So first off, word of the day, really great usage throughout. I heard from David in the legitimate format. I heard from the other David, Eric, Vanessa, Andrea, Leigh, Leon. Great job using the word of the day. Couple of filler words throughout. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the most favorite ones were and everybody really enjoyed and today. If you would like more info on some of your specific filler words, watch the video. The video will give you all of your filler words. You don't need to hear it from me, each and every count. Effective use of language from Allie. Free yourself of your own expectations. I thought that was a powerful message. Not that we shouldn't set great expectations for ourselves, but sometimes we get shackled by our expectations. We need to leave them behind. From Leigh, have our elected officials that reflect different life experiences, and how do we create the right mechanisms to allow for people to serve. From Bill, leadership is instilling passion in others to go achieve something. Thought that was a powerful message. And from Nick, Andrew, I think, said something similar, but surprised me with new mistakes. Thought that was particularly memorable. So that's it. Great job, everybody. I'll pass it back to our evaluator.
That was awesome. So everybody give him a hand. So it was something, and he was talking, I remembered that I had wrote down. I try not to, I take notes so I can have them in my head and then I don't look at them. But it was one thing I did want to say. We always talk about what can we do better, and I'm trying to find it. We have to make sure, that was it. We have to make sure that we remember that this mic does not carry your voice. That's number one. And the other thing, we have to remember that the cameras are up here. So make sure you stay somewhere, and you can move all around, but make sure you stay where the people can see you. Because we want to keep everybody involved in our meetings. Okay, so just that's the one thing I think we still need to work on, is to make sure, because I've been online a couple of times where I couldn't see or I couldn't hear. So if we're as speakers, I know our speaker today, she didn't know. But when you're speaking and someone's, giving an answer, remember to speak a little louder. That's all. Like I said, meeting started on time. Everybody had signed up for a role ahead of time. Congratulations. We didn't have to ask people today to do a role. So that's what it was. So Allie, she did something today. She said, it's okay. Basically, you know what she said. She said, it's okay to be you, butterfly. That's my company name. Don't just small plug. But that was what I heard. But it's okay to sign up for different roles. It is. They resemble you. We can see you in them. We can see you being a timer. We can see you being a grammarian, because you can put you in it. And that's the one good thing I like about when David does the timing, because he put himself, I call him the timer now, because he gonna take your role, David. David does timing a lot for things, but you're pretty good at it. So I have to give you credit where credit is due. So we have to sign up and be timely about signing up. Don't leave us out there. It's a group effort. So I'm going to turn this back over to our vice president. Oh, ballot counter. I forgot about the ballot counter. We haven't done ballot counter in a while. So see, I didn't make the same mistake. See, my other mistake when I'm a general evaluator is I forget to bring up the timer or the grammarian. I didn't forget that today, but I forgot the ballot counter.
Thank you, Toastmaster Andrea. Okay. And so I need a little audience participation, and in a minute, we'll go to the people on Zoom, but be ready because it's going to come right quickly. We are going to announce our favorite table topics person, and we're going to do a rolling drum roll, table at a time. So hang on. No, that's not it. Rolling. So table 1, table 2, table 3, table 4, people on Zoom.
Whoa!
All right. And everybody spoke beautifully, but the favorite table topics and the quote from this speech that I wrote down was, nothing ever runs perfect. If you make that mistake, own it. Nick, congratulations. Thank you very much. And back to you, Madam Evaluator.
Thank you. And I wanted to say something too, because Heather's a new member. And so, what's your name again? Nick, right? Nick and Heather, when they first came up here, so this is for our new people. They were saying, today, Heather, okay, did y'all hear? Heather did not say one today. And she used to say every other word. She said no today. I was blown away. So it takes time, but you can do it. And when Nick came up here the first time, he stumbled over his words because he was nervous. So don't ever let being nervous, or as Ali said, your age, what you feel is inexperience or whatever, stop you from doing whatever it is you want to do. And I'm turning this back over to our Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Toastmaster Andrea. Unfortunately, we are almost out of time, so we don't have time to go around to our guests. We would love to, because we usually like to get feedback, but I would like to get feedback from one person since she's in charge of making sure clubs run properly. Club Growth Director, Julie, what did you think about our meeting tonight?
Hey, David. It was very educational. I like it when you mix it up and you have a guest speaker and it's educational and they share things that are important about our community and things that we need to know about the government and how it works. Very impressive. Table topics were fun as well, also about leadership and learning and leadership. So thank you, David.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate it. And I'm going to have Elvis close us out. Elvis Lopez.
Thank you, David. What a great meeting we had today. A Big round of applause to all of the volunteers, all of our members, our guests who have participated. And as you mentioned, we don't have the time to recognize our guests. Please join us again next week. We have our meeting every Tuesday. You are always welcome. And there's always an opportunity for us to grow. But in order to do that, you have to believe it and you need to take action. So come to the meeting, please participate, and we will always be here to help you along the way. Back to you, David, and to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us and have a good night.
Meeting's officially adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Appreciate it.